Today, we're talking about the final injury report for the Washington Commanders as they get set to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. We're also going to be talking about keys to victory for the Washington Commanders. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it and let's talk about the injury update here around the Commanders. And so got a chance to see this injury report that the team tweeted out. And so this is the final injury report heading into this game against the Los Angeles Chargers. And so starting from the top, we talked about Noah Brown and how he is going to be out for this game. And so you see that he's dealing with the groin and the knee. Sam Cosmi did get a chance to practice here on Wednesday and Thursday, did not practice Friday. He is out for the game as well. And then Terry McLaurin, we talked about him yesterday, still dealing with that quad. And so he is out. And so where it gets interesting is you see that defensive tackle Deron Payne been dealing with a little bit of a knee issue. And also, too, it says rest. And so he was limited on Thursday and he was out Friday. Dan Quinn does talk about him a little bit in the presser and said that he should be a full go against the Chargers. Next, you have Dorrance Armstrong dealing with an illness, did not practice Wednesday. You see that he was a full participant here on Thursday and Friday, and so that's good. And then some great news here with John Bates. And so we see that John Bates dealing with the groin and a calf, and so he was a full participant in Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That is a big boost here to the offense. You see that Nick Bellore has been dealing with a quad, and so it looks like that he was a full participant on Thursday and Friday. And then Percy Butler been dealing with that hip, limited on Wednesday and Thursday, and he was a full go here Friday. Let's see if he's out there for the game. And then Jaden Daniels, we know that he's been dealing with the sprained knee. Looks like that things have been trending in the right direction, which we'll talk about that a little bit more as Dan Quinn says that, talks about him actually in his presser. And so you see that he was a full go on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I believe he is expected to start for the Washington Commanders. Also, too, Ali Cajo. And so it looks like that he was dealing with a concussion and he cleared that. And so he was limited on Thursday and then he was able to go here on Friday. Mikey Samra still dealing with the knee, did not practice Wednesday and Thursday. Dan Quinn did talk about him, said that he should be good to go as well. And so he was a full participant here Friday. And then Deebo Samuel, he was dealing with a heel. And so he did not practice on Wednesday and Thursday, and he was a full go. And Dan Quinn did say that he definitely looked good along with Mikey Samra still today. And then Colson Yankoff, he was able to go. So a full participant here on Thursday and Friday as he has been dealing with an ankle. And so this is the final injury update heading into this game. We'll talk about it if there's some more changes going into this. But now just to shift focus a little bit more about the injuries and just really the status of the team, going into this game. I did get a chance to see Coach Dan Quinn's presser here, which you can check out on the Commanders YouTube page. And so just paraphrasing this. And so he does talk about Jaden Daniels and just really how he's had a good week of practice and really talking about all the work that he's done to get to this point. And so, Dan Quinn had continued to keep talking about just how relentless Jaden Daniels has been as far as trying to get back out there. He was asked about a knee brace, and so Jaden Daniels will be wearing a knee brace, but it looks like that he's certainly going to be good to go. And then also, too, he does talk about, again, Mikey Sammerstill and Deebo Samuel. He said that they were full speed today, and so it sounds like that he is very confident, with those players heading out there on Sunday. And then, he talks about the team captains and things like that. So he's talking about Deebo, JK, J-Mac. He said that those are going to be the three captains here for the team. And then, he talked just really about the team just getting sharp and just getting better there because he said, look, 70% of the games have come down to being a one-score game in the fourth quarter. And he talked about, look, this is exactly why, we do the drills in these end of game situations and stuff like that to be able to execute. And so, that kind of goes into just really the team identity here for the Washington Commanders, which I think that when you look back just a season ago, they were very good, in those spaces where it was like tight games and things like that. This team was able to stay on the field, keep drives alive, get points up and things like that, and just get it done. And so, he wants to see this team trend back to that. And so, again, just paraphrasing that, but that is what Dan Quinn had to say. And one more note, too. The team is already out in Los Angeles as well. And so he said that they are going to go through a normal Saturday practice and walk through and just get the team sharp, ready, and everything else. And so looks like that the Commanders are set here for the Chargers. And so next, I wanted to talk a little bit more about just really some keys to the game. And so I always like to kind of lead with keys as we get a little bit more closer to the game. And so really, I think the key that stands out for me is going to be, number one, this team has got to get off to a better start. And number two, on defense, the one thing that the Commanders have done, I think, very well this season, which is just attacking, the opposing team's run. I think that that's exactly what they're going to have to do in this one. They're going to have to be able to stop the run, and they cannot have really, just the poor tackling efforts that they had last game here against the Chargers, because it will hurt them. And so starting with just getting off to a good start and just getting the energy right here. So I got a chance to look at this article on sportsillustrated.com, and this is under the Chargers section. And just looked at the numbers here, and I found that this was very interesting. And so says that it's pretty simple for the Commanders, as you see, 2-0 at home. But look at the combined scores. And so 62-30 has been the score for the Commanders when they've been home. However, when they've gone on the road against the Packers and the Falcons, they've been outscored 61-45 and have allowed 7 TDs in their 2 road setbacks. And so, I think a lot of that really comes down to just getting off to a better start here. And so I think that this is something that, you look at this offense, you're hoping that they can go ahead, stay on the field, and get some points. I think that that's something that the team has got to get a little bit better at right now, is just converting these third downs and just really putting a lot of pressure on these opposing teams on the road, just like they do at home. And then also too, defensively, it's about getting those stops and getting off the field. And so that was something that really the team has struggled with, in these 2 road losses. They just have come out and just the energy has not been there. You're not getting, the complimentary type of football. So I think getting off to a great start is going to be huge for the Commanders and will really help them get out of this road funk that they're in right now. And so that's key number one. And then key number two, like I said, it goes to just the defense, and it goes to their ability to stop the run. And they really have to be focused here because, I think that when you look at the Chargers and really what they like to do, yes, they do like to pass for first downs. We talked about that in yesterday's episode. But, Jim Harbaugh teams, they will run the football. And I think that they're still very much trying to find a way. I think that when you look at their running back situation and the fact that, Najee Harris went down to a bad Achilles injury, it really put Omarion Hampton in a situation where he's had to step up. And I think that he's been really on a heater the last couple of weeks because he had a great game last week against the Giants. In fact, it was his best game as a pro, 128 yards on the game. And then he had, or 128 yards, excuse me, of running the football. And then he had 37 yards as a pass catcher. And so that was, his 128 yards out of the 270 last week for the Chargers. I mean, that was just pretty spectacular, for him. And he's had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. So he's starting to pick up some steam. We know that rookie running backs, it does take a little bit of time to kind of get some things going, but it definitely looks like that Omarion Hampton is finding his way. And this is a guy that, he can be a physical runner. And so you don't want to come up and have the same type of mistakes that Joe Wood Jr. was talking about, where you have players maybe going for the strip of the ball two players actually going for the strip of the ball and just not executing and getting the tackle down. And so you want to make sure that you're tackling well and you don't give the Chargers any confidence there, because I do think that you do have a chance to possibly get Justin Herbert into some situations where he will turn the football over. And so, as good as the Chargers have been through the air, with him, he's actually thrown now 3 interceptions in the last 2 games, and that's after starting off with no interceptions. And so he's been a little turnover prone here, and I think that there is the possibility that if you can really limit the run game here for the Chargers and really make him get into some, tough situations, passing and stuff like that. Now, that's counting that you're in the right spots in the secondary, and also, too, you're getting the pressure on him, which that's another thing that could be in the Commanders' favor, because the offensive line for the Chargers has been banged up. And so he took a lot of QB hits last week, and I think that this is something that continues throughout the season. And so the Commanders have a chance to force some turnovers, but you got to be able to tackle well and stop the run. You cannot let them lean on that. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking as far as a couple of these keys to the victory. Like I said, I think that the first one is going to be getting off to the good start, because the Commanders have certainly struggled on the road for whatever reason this season, but it's early on, so still a lot of football to be played. And then next, again, just going back to something that the Commanders do well, or have done well, I think, so far this season, which is really attack, the opposing team's run game. I think that they've done a great job as far as their run fits and things like that. In fact, the Commanders right now, they're ranked 14th against the run, and I think that they can get even better. I've really liked what we saw so far. Did not like what we saw last week, and didn't necessarily like what I saw against the Packers, even though it didn't hurt us as much. But still, this is something where, hopefully the Commanders can lock in here, because they do have a nice rhythm stopping the run.